A long time ago, in a village called Onolaja, there lived a little girl called Aero. Aero was not loved by her parents because of her loss of hair. They would go to the market to get things for her younger siblings and would even treat her like a slave in the house, even when she was the oldest. When she was younger, she fell very sick and gradually lost her hair. And by the time the sickness went away, she had become totally bald. No one wanted to be her friend because she didn't have any hair on her body. They saw her as an abomination, and even parents would severely warn their children not to talk or play with her. She was always crying and sad. Her parents didn't make it any better for her, as they would also treat her like she was their slave. Her younger siblings didn't like her. Everyone saw her as an eyesore. Aero, with all this, decided not to lose her self-esteem, and as they would send her and treat her badly, she would gladly do the work they sent her and go away. Aero was good at a lot of things. She was good at hand sewing. She would take pieces of clothes her parents weren't wearing again and make out clothes for herself. This was self-taught. When she was of age, she decided to gather money and buy materials to sew for people and herself. When her mother saw that she would sew clothes perfectly, she would buy clothing material and throw it in her room, saying, "I want you to sew these clothes for my children. Make them perfect, or else you will receive the beating of your life, you useless child." Sometimes when her mother brought clothes in pity, she would throw a few cowries at her to pay for her service. Sometimes she would give her free clothes. With this, she was able to gather money and start a business secretly. Aero also had a secret friend, Arewa. Arewa and Aero met one day when she was going to fetch water in the stream. That very day, Aero saw Arewa crying and sobbing that she was forced to go and meet her and ask what the problem was. Arewa was an orphan and stayed at her aunt and uncle's place. They were very nice to her, but sometimes she missed her parents. And when she did, she would always come to the edge of the stream to cry. From that day on, they became good friends. Arewa brought up the idea of selling the clothes Aero sewed, and she saw this was a good idea. When the money was complete, Aero gave Arewa the money so she could go and help her buy the materials, and Arewa happily went. She got the materials and took them to the stream where Aero loved sewing. One day, Arewa asked why the stream was her favorite spot to make clothes. Aero answered her saying, "This place is peaceful and quiet, unlike my house." The plan was for Arewa to go to the market to buy materials and go to the edge of the stream to wait for Aero. Aero was going to lie to her parents that she wanted to go and fetch water, but really she was going to meet Arewa to start sewing. Their plans worked, and they started making a lot of money. After Aero sewed the clothes, Arewa would go 2 villages away called Boripe to sell them, and everyone loved Aero's clothes. Their plans kept going for weeks and months. Aero even started planning to use part of the money to build a small hut for herself and Aero in Boripe so she could sell and make the clothes comfortable. They were eventually able to build a hut and start their own business. Her business was booming, and no one knew the real person behind the popular clothes. The clothes had even started becoming popular in Onolaja, her village. One day, when her mother was home, she noticed that her daughter was always smiling and that she wasn't in the house when she got back from the farm. She asked Aero's younger brother to watch his sister for some days. He then began recounting how their mother instructed him to keep an eye on Aero for a week, and how furious she became upon learning about Aero's business. He told their mother all he had found. She was shocked and decided to teach her daughter a lesson. One day, when she was sure that Aero was not going to her shop, she bought oil and took it to Boripe, where Aero's shop was located, and burned the shop. As the shop burned, Aero's mother laughed and said this would teach her a lesson that she can never be happy unless I accept it. The next day, Arewa went to the shop to start the day and sell clothes that had been sewn by Aero as usual, but was met with the most heartbreaking scene. She met a burnt hot. She was shattered and didn't know how to tell Aero. After sobbing and crying, she was eventually able to gather the courage and go to tell her friend. Their lifelong business and plan had been burnt by an unknown person. She ran to tell her friend this bad news, and as she told her, Aero fainted and did not wake up until after 3 days. The shock was too much. Not only had her business failed, but her life was ruined. Where would she start from? It wasn't like she could tell anyone what had happened. They decided to stop the business for 2 weeks so they could think of what to do next. Aero was sad and would always cry. She would cry at any given chance. Aero was known to have a hard skin when it came to being insulted, but at any given insult from the villagers or family, she would start crying and weeping. It became hard on her. This was the end of her dream. Even if she had little money to start again, what if the same thing happened another time? After 2 weeks of grief, she and Arewa had a meeting to lay low and not sell clothes for the meantime. They would meet at the edge of the stream to talk, and even if this was a bad thing, it gave them a chance to be free and to think of better ways to expand when they were ready. They had money in their bank account, so it was just a matter of time. They did their best to clean the hut and make it look better, but they didn't continue their business. Their mother was happy, thinking that she had successfully ruined her daughter's happiness. A month after this had happened, Aero had gotten past the incident and was just doing everything they sent her into the house. One day, her brother came to talk to her. Aero, I want to tell you something. Her brother had never come to her so politely like this before. And thinking about it before now, he was always avoiding her and trying his best not to have any direct conversation with her. She didn't think so much of it because she knew how they all treated her normally. But his coming to meet her this way made her very curious as to what he wanted to say. He then started telling her how their mother had told him to watch her for a week, and how their mother grew furious when she knew Aero had a business. Aero was once again heartbroken. And as she heard this, she ran out of the house. She ran and ran, and when she got to the stream, she started crying. She was shouting and crying at the top of her lungs. Why did their God give her to such kind of parent? Why couldn't she be happy with the little life she was living? She cried and cried. Arewa learned about this after Aero's brother told her what had happened. She couldn't say anything to her friend and just sat there looking at her friend as she cried. After hours of crying, Aero eventually stopped and told her friend that she was going to leave her parents' house. She told her that she had had enough of their maltreatment and she was ready to leave. She begged Aero to help her pack her little belongings she had in their house, as she never wanted to see her family members again. Without saying a word, Aero left to do what she asked, and before she came back, Aero told her aunt and uncle everything that happened, and they were so sad. She told them that she and Aero were going to be staying in the hut at Boripe for a few days, even though she was sure Aero would never come back to this village. They bid her goodbye and even gave her a few foodstuffs before she left. They were good people. When she got to the stream, she saw Aero sleeping on the floor. This was when she also began crying. She felt sorry for her friend, and after trying so hard not to let what happened get to her, she found out the culprit was her mother. Aero eventually woke up and they proceeded to leave where they were. The walk to Boripe was quiet. The two of them had a lot of things on their mind. It was a great thing they had decided to clean the hut and make it better after it got burnt, because if they hadn't, it would have been hard to sleep there or even live there. They eventually got to the hut and arranged the place to look better. It wasn't so much space, but at least there was enough room for the two of them and their belongings. Aero, after arranging, made a space for herself to sleep and slept as soon as she lay on the wrapper she spread on the floor. Aero knew what state her friend was in and decided not to say anything until her friend was ready to talk to her. She felt pity for her friend, and after arranging her things too, she also slept. They were free but very sad. The next morning, Aero woke up a bit late and looked for Aero but didn't see her. Immediately she was scared. She thought her friend would have done something she could regret. She didn't even know what to think. She took the wrapper and decided to go out to look for her friend before she hurt herself or something else. But to her surprise, Aero was cooking just outside the hut. Aero was surprised. Filled with concern for her friend, she asked softly, "Aero, are you alright?" Her friend told her she was fine and even added that she had forgiven her mother, but she never wanted to see her again in her life. She also told her friend that they should start their cloth business again, as there was no one to stop them or hold them back now. Aero was happy to hear this. She had waited so long. Even though she couldn't sew beautiful clothes like her friend, her favorite thing to do was to buy materials and sell them when Aero was done making them. She also loved wearing clothes her friend made for her. After a few days, they started their business and it was going well. People were happy and their favorite clothes were back on the market, and everyone wanted to know who the maker was. Some people even started a rumor that it was a witch who was sewing clothes. They also added that they didn't know her because the witch was very ugly. No one really believed these rumors, but they were all curious. Aero and Aero were happy. Sometimes Aero would go back home to visit her uncle and aunt. She would spend a few days there and tell them everything that had happened before she went back to meet Aero. The two of them were happy. One day, a strange man came to meet Arewa to ask if she would tell him about the person behind the sewing of the clothes. According to him, the clothes were magical, but Arewa refused, adding that she couldn't tell him about the maker. But this man didn't stop meeting Arewa to ask her about the maker of the clothes. Arewa then decided to tell her friend after weeks of the man meeting and disturbing her. After thinking about it for a while, Aero told her friend to bring him to the hut to see her. The man then met up with Aero and told her that his owners would love to give her clothes to sew for them. He added that they loved her clothes and would love her to sew good quality clothes for them. Aero and Arewa were happy. The man also told them that his owners were ready to pay as much money as she wanted for her to make the best clothes for them. He told her they were rich people and should wear quality and unique clothes. Aero agreed to this. Before he left, he told them he was going to bring the first set of clothes the next day. The agreement was also that he would be bringing clothes for her to sew every week, which she agreed to. Aero and Arewa were happy that this was happening. It was exciting to see that important people recognized their clothes and were ready to trust them. The second day, as the man had said, he brought the material for Aero. He told her what his owners wanted and she got to work. She made sure the clothes she made were both different and beautiful. She made other clothes for sale in between, but she was more focused on making this person happy. She spent days and nights making these clothes beautiful and perfect. At the end of the week, this man came with a huge sum of money and he took the clothes that were already made to his owner. Aero was curious, but she decided not to ask too many questions so as not to chase this man and his owners away. This happened for weeks and months. She would sew clothes for the man, and after a week, he would come back to take them and pay her. She and Arewa were rich, and they became the talk of the town. Aero began training little girls in the village too, and she even hired someone to help her make regular clothes she sold after 3 months of sewing for this man. He came one day and told her that his owners would love to meet her. She was happy but shocked at the same time. The man explained that his owners decided to keep their identity a secret because of how important they were. He then told her to take a week to think about meeting them or not. He also told her that if she decided not to meet them, she would continue sewing, but he would love for her to meet his owners. For that week, Aero and Arewa thought about who his owners could possibly be, and after so much thinking, they assumed that it could be some merchant that sells clothes and loves wearing good clothes. They also decided to go meet them. At the end of the week, the man came to meet them to take them to his owners. The journey lasted a whole day. They also traveled by horse. The man came with another person who rode another horse with Arewa, while Aero rode the horse with the man. They kept trying to figure out who exactly they were going to meet to be treated this well. When they got there, they were surprised. It turned out they had been sewing clothes for the queen of 2 villages from Boripe called Aderomu. When they got there, They were welcomed by the queen and her children with her clothes on them. The queen told her how much she loved her clothes and how long she had wanted to meet her. The queen could not stop talking about how much love she had for her clothes and even called her fingers magical fingers. She welcomed them to the palace and told them to feel at home. The queen Adesawa told her servants to prepare food for them to eat. As she took them to the room she had already prepared for them, they were short of words to say. Entering the room, they jumped and danced with excitement, signaling a profound change in their lives. When food was ready, the queen came with her daughters to eat with them. After they ate, the queen asked about their families so they could get to know them better. They both told them about their lives and how they started their business. They even told them how Awero's mother burned down the hut when they had just started. The queen felt so sorry for her and told her that she had an offer for the two of them. She proposed that they become the palace personal cloth maker, and told them she wasn't going to rush them, but she would give them 1 week to think about what they want. She also told them that she would provide a place for them to live, and she would also provide another place for them to work. She added that she also had servants ready to learn and work for them. They left and went back to the small hut to think about what to do with the queen's proposal. After the week ended, the men came back to get their answer. They told him they had agreed. The men went back to the palace to let the queen and her daughters know. The queen fulfilled all her promises and provided them with all they needed. Their lives were drastically changed after this, and everyone recognized Aero as the personal stylist of the Queen of Aderomu. This is the end of today's story. Make sure to subscribe to this video and give us a like. You can also share this video with your friends.